Good Monday morning, everyone. We are more than halfway through June, you guys. We're going to make it, I promise. But you guys listening to Author Talk with me, Amy, Russell, Valerie, and our lovely author guest today is Chad. So you guys listen. I love Texas. You guys know that. I'm not a traveler. I just got back from my trip to Sedona for my 10-year wedding anniversary. And the desert heat is something, I don't know. I mean, you have a Texas girl, dry heat. I don't know, but it's freaking hot. Okay. It was hot. It was fun. We did some really cool stuff. I'm going to upload and do a crazy photo dump here in a little while. But it was a lot of fun to go and like be outdoors, see different things, but fun time. So I'm back with my children. I did have like a detox from them, but they wanted to stay with my mom because they would just prefer my mom over me. And I have told them from that trend that like, I'm sorry, my mom's cooler than your mom. Like, yeah, it's kind of one of those things. But what all did you guys do this weekend? I hope it was relaxing and enjoying. So what all did you guys do? Who wants to go first? Valerie, you always kick us off. So kick us off.
Okay. Well, it was pretty eventful because my birthday is in 2 days, so we have to celebrate early. And my grandson was getting baptized, so then that's a whole thing. And we had lunch at our and then what else? So we had about 25, maybe 30 people at our house, so it's always a good time.
Okay,
And
that's
then
beautiful. Dad, she's
yeah,
a large Italian family. It's beautiful. There are always like 1,000 people at her house, and her grandmother makes the Italian gravy. This is the kind of thing that we would all wish we could go to.
That's great.
yeah. We're constantly eating, constantly hanging out, that kind of thing. And then we have since it's so close to my birthday, we had I have some friends that we've all been together since my son was in kindergarten, and we all get together for birthday celebrations. So we did that, and it was wig out. So I had wore blue hair. It was kind of
We need
it was a fun.
photos. We need
Yes,
photos.
yeah,
No,
that'll come
let's
later.
just
But
let's just
We need it. Don't listen to
but
Russell. He's delusional. We
yeah,
need photos.
yeah. Yeah, so that kind of thing. And then we had book club, and finally getting around to that. I feel like we're all like, we're gonna talk about this book. And I was like, I read that book 3 books late. I'm already
What
three
book
books
is
past
it?
that one. And I was like,
What book are
wait,
you
what
talking
happened
about?
to it? It was a book called Evil Genius. It was
I haven't heard of
so
it.
it was just kind of different. It was a short book because it was like one of those things like Barnes and Noble recommends. I was like,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
It's summer reading, let's go. But anyway, I just finished a story called The Ending Writes Itself. And I really like that book. It was a writing contest for authors to finish the legacy of a well-known writer who passed away. And so they brought in all these writers of different genres, and they're talking about their voice and their experience to create an ending for this fabulous book. So it was good, but it turned into a murder suspense. And that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. I'm here for
But
that. I
but
did not see that coming.
but
I was
birthday,
thinking it was
another June birthday,
nonfiction.
and yours is coming up, Amy. Your
I
birthday is around
know.
the corner.
It is.
So,
It's around the corner. We're fixing to hit birthday season in my house, Chad. So my birthday
mhm.
is June 30th. My husband's birthday is July 6th. And
All right.
my oldest daughter's is July 8th. So
Wow.
it's like a whole week of it. And so we're going to do a big party on the 4th of July. Why not just add an extra birthday
Mhm.
in there? So now that I'm back from Sedona, I'm going to try to plan this and try to pull Hello Kitty and
Hello
patriotic
Kitty.
colors together. we're
You
gonna
can
make
do
that
it.
happen. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna make it happen. And
So
I'm
I have
gonna
I have an interesting fact. I have 4 children, and one of them was born on December 12th. One of them was born on May 12th. One of them was born on July 12th. And one of them was born on May 13th. And we're wondering why he was a day late.
Right, right.
wow,
Oh, that is so funny because
that's
I have
cool.
4 children
13 is a lucky
also.
number.
Yeah, so I have 4 children also. We got August 1st, August 8th, August 18th, and then number 4, he's a November 2nd, and we're like, what happened there?
Good.
Man, no, those are crazy. I thought my kids being super close, but like the same date. you know, of just a
Yeah,
different one. That's pretty cool.
That's really
I like
unique.
that.
That's really unique.
That is different. So yeah, I'm gonna survive that, Valerie. I'm gonna survive that, and I'm gonna invite Russell. Russell's gonna come party.
There is no way I'm going to a July 4th, Hello Kitty, the whole neighborhood, and all your children and all your sisters. Chad, she has
Oh my
like
goodness.
15 sisters.
I
They all
have
have like
three.
12
I have
kids.
3. They
It's
don't.
going to be the
Maybe you
night,
have
the
something
day
against
from
Hello Kitty.
hell.
I don't know. Yeah.
No,
I
I
don't
don't know. Josh is turning this into a rager. I think half of my neighborhood has been invited. I don't know if they're really coming or
Okay,
not.
that's
we'll
awesome.
See. We'll see what happens. We'll just, I guess my house is just going to be the like open door policy, whatever. I don't know. We'll see how this all happens because we'll have all of our families coming and a bunch of 7-year-olds running around. And then we'll
That's
have younger
terrible.
kids too because my youngest daughter, when we do it, because my youngest daughter is August. And so we kind of combine their birthdays for family in July. So it's gonna be really fun. We're gonna gear into this chaotic season, you guys. So if I am borderline crazy, just ignore me. Just Amy's in La La Land trying to survive this season. But Russell, what did you do this weekend?
The Museum of Fine Arts has new visiting Picasso's impressionist paintings, and granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, and I went. I bribed her by saying, "We'll go buy the butterflies,
Ooh,
and I will buy you lunch wherever you want it if you'll go to the Museum of Fine Arts with me."
nice. That's a good
So
bribe.
that's what we did. You know, I have 3 grandchildren so far. If I can turn one of them into an opera fan, I will have hit a home run. If I can turn 2 of them into people that will go visit art museums with me, I will have hit a home run. So this is part of the ongoing attack. I'm also going. I have bribed her into going to the the Shakespeare in the Park is in
Oh,
July, and I have bribed her to go to the Child's Night with me. Uh, it's expensive because not that it costs to go to it, but that it's the briber. But if I could just get one of my granddaughters to
briber.
be someone that loves Shakespeare with me, I've won. So that's my ongoing project and what I did this weekend.
I love it.
Mm.
It used to be
How
that when
did you
we
like that art exhibit? How
Always love them. You can see behind me. Such a cubist. I even have a painting in my house. Chad, Chad, what did you?
I was
Were
just
you
saying
asking?
that, after, so my mom died early, and after she died, we made a decision we were going to travel overseas once a year, no matter what, except for COVID. We didn't plan for that. But absent COVID, we've been going overseas. And so when you go overseas, you go to a lot of art museums. And I had little kids. And one of the things that we did was we had them do a journal ahead of time. And when we went into the art museum, they had 5 paintings that they had picked out. And there's now an algorithm where you can figure out the most efficient way to get through a museum with everybody's paintings. So in my case, 20 paintings. And it wasn't my idea, but it was brilliant because they would actually want to go do it, sit down, and then
I'm going to steal that.
they doodle the painting,
That's cool.
into their journals, and they fought to be able to go and stay. So we actually had to pull them out of the museum. So it was really good.
I'm going to look that up on AI and
Yeah.
ask it about that and because Chat's like my best friend now as far as solving my problems. And I'm going to formulate that idea and get it explained to me, and I'm going to do that. That's
And
going
then
to be a part of my project this summer with both opera, Shakespeare, and modern art.
And then for now that my daughter's older, she's the creative one in the family.
How old is she?
She is now 20. But when she was 18, I took her to the Art Institute of Chicago, and she said, in order for me to go, you have to dress up as Ferris Bueller. And I'm going to
Nice.
dress up in the Chicago jersey,
That's
hockey
very
jersey.
cool, by the way.
So we did all the photos that you see in Ferris Bueller there. So she's the one that takes me out of my serious mode very quickly. But it was a good
I love
Okay,
it.
that's wonderful. Chad, that's the kind of stories that we need.
I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cute. I love
Okay,
that.
before we get going, we need to thank the people that are listening to us. We've been on the air 10 years. When we first, and you can go over to YouTube, Amy will tell you all about it, and you can see those first shows, which were terrible. Chad, I don't
They
know
were
if have you ever
fantastic.
seen like the first time you were ever interviewed on a podcast or tried to do a podcast and it embarrasses you? Well, they can
They're adorable. I love
I
them.
mean, I've looked at the last one I did and it embarrassed me. So
okay. See that you get another check for that. Good job. Anyway, we've been on for 10 years. We've been on podcast channels for the last few years. We've been rated top 1% on Good Pods, top 10% on some of the other podcast channels for either art interviews or author interviews. We're very grateful and we love this. Even I can find us now because Amy and Dina adjust things. Amy, where can people find us? And if you would give us a big support on the YouTube channel, that the blue boost button that you can push us now, we would very much appreciate that.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with how you can watch us so you can see the nostalgic, adorable way that we started. So you can go over to our YouTube channel, our Facebook group, any one of our social media channels. You want to see us live and catch our video. You can search us for on the podcasting channels, type in Author Talk. You can go to any of them. I go to Amazon Music, Spotify. I'm an Android user, so Google Play, iTunes. For Apple users, do Author Talk, look for the crimson, red, and gold, and that's us. But I highly encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and go to the very first episode to see how just wonderful it is and how much we have evolved from that, because it's just great to see how we have evolved. But those are nice. They're so cute, Russell. They're from like 10 years ago, so we can see how we all looked 10 years ago and how we all talked, and like when I barely knew Russell and it was still like having to drive down to his place and get used to his personality, and now we're like two peas in a pod. It's the funniest thing ever. So if you want to see that evolution, you should go and check those out. But let's get Chad talking about his book and his writing career and his journey towards this book. So Valerie, Russell, you guys take it away.
All right. So Chad, can you just share a little bit about your experience, about yourself? I was reading your bio, and the first sentence is like, you have a broad range of government, legal, and corporate experience. But then when you read more, it's like, whoa, that's like an understatement of everything you've done to get to this point. Can you just give us like a broad overview so people can get to know you?
sure. I grew up in Texas, South Texas, so familiar culture here on the podcast. But I was a trial lawyer by trade when I got out of law school and was practicing in Austin, Texas. Was hired by the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. the night before the September 11 attacks. So I was going up to be a tort lawyer and ended up becoming more of a Homeland Security, national security lawyer. And just kind of went from there. DHS was created. They brought in a secretary for that. He lasted a couple of years. And then somebody that I knew, Michael Chertoff, was moving over to become secretary. He asked me to be his deputy chief of staff. So not a legal position, but it was probably the most fun I've ever had. It was hard, but it was a lot of excitement, learned a lot. And a lot of the stuff that I write about probably comes certainly from DOJ, but also from DHS. And did the law firm thing again. I started a small law firm, went to a big law firm. And since 2011, I work for the biggest shipbuilder in the country, a company that builds all the aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines. And started out as head of litigation, and for the last 6 years have been the chief legal officer here at the company.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I don't know how you find time to write.
I don't either. So.
Yes. And I know you mentioned you have 4 kids, so then just in between family and work and all of these things, what I guess prompted you to start writing in general?
Yeah, it was probably my first kid, Blake, who, I have a Blake and I have a Hudson. And my protagonist in most of my novels is Blake Hudson. So, but when I started at DOJ, I was just overwhelmed by all the stuff that was going on. The main justice building there is one of the best buildings, I think, in the country. And a lot of people don't get to see it, but it's got all sorts of, we talked about art. It's got some of the best art you would see inside. And, but there was also an 8th floor that most people didn't know existed, still there. It used to be the FBI ballistics lab. And I was curious, and I had a custodian take me up there, and that was probably my greatest inspiration to start writing, because I figured I could really have a scene here in a book that would be fantastic. And and so I, with a flashlight and a notepad, I was taking notes, and those notes eventually materialized into, probably chapter 3 and 4 of my first book. But but I also had time, because I would come home from work and Blake was up, and I was not allowed to go to sleep until my wife went to sleep. And so I would just use that time to start writing. And it was a long process from that point, but that's really what started it.
That's, and then this new book, Scavenger Hunt, how did this one come about?
Yeah, so Scavenger Hunt is the series, and the first book was Scavenger Hunt. The latest book was Mob Justice, and Mob Justice came
I'm sorry.
about. Yeah, it's fine. It's all in the Scavenger Hunt series. So Mob Justice was really my fascination with the mafia, and I had obviously, like a lot of people, I like to be entertained by mafia movies. I've watched probably all of them now and researched for the book, and read a lot and researched a lot about them. But I also had some of the top prosecutors that went after the mafia that were in my life. I never myself prosecuted the mafia, but I mentioned Michael Chertoff. He brought down all the 5 crime families in New York. I think it's called Fear City, is on Netflix, and that story is captured there. But he played a prominent role in that as the lead prosecutor. And then, the person I dedicated the book to, David Margolis, was one of the founding members of the Organized Crime Strike Force, which I resurrected in this book. And then there was another guy named Jack Miller, who was RFK's Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division. And he was a Republican. So RFK, according to Jack Miller, said that he said RFK hired him, so if he messed up with the mob or with labor, whatever he was going after us, it wouldn't look poorly on the Kennedy family, because obviously President Kennedy was down the road. But he had some fascinating stories about the mafia and about the Kennedys. And so I just took notes along the way when I worked with him. And a lot of that inspired me to write Mob Justice.
Very nice. Very nice. Russell, I know you're probably chomping at the bit.
I have so many. I am wondering, what does your job entail as far as the construction of the carriers? And are you involved in the ideas now that they want to massively increase the number of ships being built, or the speed with which they're being built? Are you involved in any of that? I mean, it's like seems like your job is like cutting edge, both in what's going on and changing right now. So it amazes me you have time to write. A whole different tangent. I have all sorts of questions about the way you taught and raised your children with art, because that story that you told me at the beginning is just, I can't get that out of my mind. How you made sure all your children were properly exposed to the beauty of art.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with that, and then I'll work
Okay,
on
do that.
So, I lost both of my parents at an early age, and I was very committed to spending a lot of time with my children. And they grew up on Capitol Hill. And when they're up in the morning and there's nothing to do on a Saturday, we would get in the stroller and we would walk to all the Smithsonian's over time. And so they spent a lot of their time growing up in Smithsonian's, including the Fine Arts Museum. And then just the natural schedule that comes together when you're traveling overseas is, you want to go to the Prada, you want to go to the, all the great art museums that particularly are in Europe. And I
I
just
find
got
it
them.
interesting you use the Prada as the example.
Well,
That's
that's
very
my
interesting,
favorite.
by the
That's
way.
my favorite because
Obvi-
I wasn't expecting much when I walked in there, and I think we probably spent an entire day there. It was fascinating. But and they all have their favorite artists. I'm a Van Gogh fan, and so we've gone to
so am
Amsterdam,
I. Van
and
Gogh's my favorite.
and then on, again, you have rainy days, you have rainy weekend days, and what are you going to do when you can't get outside? We put up a canvas and get out the oil paintings, or
Okay, this leads me to a bigger question. How while you were doing all these things you just told Valerie you were doing in your career, how did you have time for your four children and to do this? And I noticed you said when you got home and but the baby was still awake, you couldn't go to bed because your wife couldn't go to bed. And I don't think I didn't hear that. So that tells me a little bit, but tell us, how were you able to maintain a family and do all that? And then write.
Mhm.
yeah, well, I don't sleep a whole lot, so that's part of it. But
Mhm.
I'm very much a believer in prioritizing what is meaningful in your life, and so if I've been lucky that I've had a job that is pretty high stakes, from the time I was 28, but I knew, like, if you've ever thought of, so I will just tell you, I won't mention a name, but somebody that I looked up to who was one of the best lawyers probably ever in this country. He died. He was right next door to me at the law firm when I was out of government, and everybody looked up to him. And he died, and I remember reading the obituary, and it was one of the saddest things I've ever read. He died by himself. His horse was his best friend. He dedicated everything to his career. And if you ask anybody now, they don't even know who he is. And so I said, that's not going to be me. And so I didn't sit down and write my eulogy or obituary, but in my head, I have it. And the things that are going to be most meaningful to me when it's my time to go on, really not about work. So I prioritize things in my life that I think are meaningful, and I try to stick to them.
Wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
answers like 100-pound weight. Thank you very much.
Yes. So let's talk about mob justice. How is this story evolving then from your last book?
So the first book in the series was, and there was an off-brand book in the middle that I was working on audio this weekend. But the first book ends with a terrorism attack that's thwarted, but the people, including Blake Hudson, that thwarted the attack actually colored outside the lines, and so they were heroes at the end of that book. But Blake's in trouble at the beginning of this book, so he's in the principal's office, if you will, at the Department of Justice, and all of the political figures that were protecting him in the last book have now been have moved on, and we've got a new administration, and they want to get this nasty taste of Operation Scavenger Hunt out of their mouth. And so he becomes somewhat of a patsy. And so the not too much of a spoiler here, he's in the principal's office and he's in trouble, and then the people that are cross-examining leave, and there's one individual left who's kind of the dean of the department, and he says, Blake, I've got another job for you. I need you to chase a new kind of scavenger. And so he's moved from really working on terrorism matters into the organized crime strike force, which he doesn't know anything about, and he's sent off to Chicago to battle the mob.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to do a lot of research, or were you able to pull from work experience here?
A little bit of both. So I mean, I
Yeah.
did a lot of research on the Chicago mafia groups that particularly in the 20s and 30s. So Al Capone, the very interesting types. When you go to Chicago, a lot of the very interesting sites that are legacy mafia are from that era. And so I really drew upon that. And then it's funny because, you know, those who write fiction probably can attest to this. Once you start down a path, there are these nuggets that just come out and you find. So I found, I didn't know there was an underground tunnel system, not the Pedway, an underground tunnel system that's been shut down in Chicago. It's 40 feet underground, and it's where the mob used to peddle their hooch. And it's got a fascinating history to it. And there's one elevator bank that gets down to that tunnel system now, and it's in City Hall. And I actually got kicked out of City Hall on a Saturday. I wasn't supposed to be there. I had gone to a Pearl Jam concert the night before, and I was supposed to go on Friday. Did not go to City Hall on Friday. Didn't know it was closed on Saturday. But there was one door in the back that was open, and that's where the Justice of the Peace marries people. And so I had a T-shirt on and some shorts. Everybody else was dressed a lot nicer, but I snuck in and I went to the elevator bank, which is separate from the Justice of the Peace area. And a security guard said, "What in the world do you think you're doing?" And before long, I was perp walked out of there. But I did find out where those elevator banks were, and that's all I needed to know. So that's my kind of research.
That's the best kind, because then you're really getting a feel for, you know, the I guess the excitement, the suspense. You're like, you can get in the head of your character a little bit better because you're seeing it with fresh eyes. Russell, did you have another question?
Yeah, there's nothing as good as uh, uh, the most interesting thing about that is that you figured out where the door was. Uh, that means you're kind of a scammer. That means that you're like, okay, I bet I won't try. The front door's locked, but I bet there's a back door that someone may have carelessly left open. I've actually done that kind of stuff before too, for the same type of reason. So I totally get that. It's very impressive.
Yeah,
Uh,
my wife would laugh at that because she sees the job that I do, but then she knows the real me when I get home. So
I know. I don't know. Is your wife a rule follower? My wife is a rule follower,
yes,
so I don't get laughed at. I get rebuked for being
you
that
get in
way.
trouble. Yeah, I do. I get some of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, my question is about: do you use other friends or relatives' names in your books, and do they respond to it? Because you
The
said to
only
use your children's name is one of your main characters.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and Blake Hudson was the one I mentioned earlier, and I don't want to. I want to make sure I got the sequence of here that's right. I actually had the name of Blake Hudson before my Blake was born, and it was my
Wow.
wife that wanted to adopt that. She just liked the name,
Okay, that's
and it
cool.
was my wife on the Hudson end too. So this is not a complex that I have. If anything, she just likes the names that I picked. But the
Sorry.
only other name that I've used that is within my family is Curtis Warden, who's really Vernus Warden. And there's a Vernus in my second book, and that book is a hometown, kind of a hometown love song for me. But my grandfather raised me when I was a kid, and he's passed away. But that kind of had paid some homage to him in my second book.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
have you had anyone complain, gripe, or voice displeasure at anything in one of your books? For example, one of the characters in one of my books is a very bad person and uses a lot of curse words in the dialogue because that's the kind of person he is. And the only 1-star review I ever got was an old lady that bought my book and said it was too dirty because of all the words he used. Have you got anything like that from your reviews or from anyone else?
Well, I got a 1-star review for the opposite because I didn't use enough curse words in Mob Justice.
Then
So
you can't win.
no, but you don't have to win. That's fine. It's but again, I said that I hadn't used family. I guess there's one other exception. The only real character in my book is my Great Dane Judge. He also passed away, but the Scavenger Hunt series has Judge, who's Blake Hudson's Great Dane, and judge in Scavenger Hunt gets attacked and he almost dies. And every time I go do a book signing, with few exceptions, I will have people tell me, you better be glad you didn't kill that dog, because I would be done with you if you killed that dog. So I learned a very valuable lesson. You do not kill off pets in your
True.
books.
It's
Okay.
true. That's very true.
You know, that's true. I've had several animals in some of my books, and I know you're right because uh, I had a dog. I have a dog in one of my books, and the whole time I'm writing the book, the first editor that was working with me as I finished chapters was threatening me, don't hurt the dog.
Wise counsel.
It was awful because that, I are you a planner or a pantser, Chad?
Come again?
Are you a planner? Do you outline your whole book and you know exactly what's going to happen in the end before you get started, or do you just start writing? Which one?
I'm somewhat in the middle. I do scaffolding for outlines, and by the time I hit like mid chapters, it's upside down and the characters have taken over.
That is so true and so real. I totally understand that. Hey, Valerie, you had something to say. You're on mute.
Sorry, that little random phone call. I was like, can't do that again. Forgot to turn off my phone. But however, you mentioned when you were doing research on the mob, back in Chicago and such, and you found some interesting nuggets. Was there anything that made it into your book?
Yeah, certainly the tunnel systems, and then also, in addition to kind of what I saw on site in Chicago, the one area that I needed help was wiretapping, because I've never done wiretapping before. I've worked with the Bureau, I've worked with DOJ, but I've never had to do that, and it's a very prominent way that federal law enforcement goes after the mafia, is they do wiretaps and bugs. And so I'd written a few chapters with that kind of incorporated into it. We were doing some wiretapping, and I turned it over. The great thing is I do have some friends that are, they know their stuff, former high level bureau. And so I have them beta read these books. And, the guy that was the most expert on this called me up and he said, no, that's not the way we talk. And that's not the way it's done. And he, in a very methodical way, outlined all of this. And I learned there's like a whole dialect around wiretapping. And so I became, as smart as I could on that. And hopefully it's accurately rendered in the book.
Oh, I'm sure the reader will appreciate that. And then also, are we staying in one location in this story, or are we moving around?
We're going to be primarily in DC and Chicago. And there's one jaunt that we take down to Mexico.
Oh, okay. And I guess, can you walk us through, like, what is the premise of the plot? Are they trying to arrest, or are they trying to engage, or just trying to bring the whole thing down?
Yeah, they're trying to bring a case, and actually the question is, part of the plot of the book is Blake's trying to figure out what is exactly we're trying to do here, but ultimately he learns they're trying to prosecute the mob. When he gets there, he finds that his biggest nemesis is a guy named Enzo Renzi, who is the consigliere for the Chicago outfit, Capone's old mob. And Enzo is a lot like Blake. They're both Supreme Court clerks, but Enzo went to the dark side, and Blake went to the side of the angels, or so you think. And they have a lot in common, but it really is kind of like two different people who they took different paths. And so a big spotlight of the book is how they interact with one another and the battles that they have.
I love that. That sounds like a great story arc. And tell me a little bit about the development of your characters. I know Blake Hudson might already be established, but does he evolve as well?
Yeah, so Blake is, he's a really smart guy. He's a handsome guy, but he's a little naive and he's young. So he's kind of like a lot of us back in, and Blake's obviously not me, but he's not anybody. He's an amalgamation of people that I met at DOJ. But a lot of us were kind of I was 28 when I was at DOJ dealing with some very big things, and you're kind of learning on the job, and that's kind of the way he has. He has a good heart, and he's got a good wit about him, but he likes he does get into danger, and then he has to work his way out of it. I think you know, a lot of people ask me, like, what is the message you're trying to send with this book? I'm not trying to send any message at all. It's about entertainment, and it's about character development. And if you can't develop your characters, then your story is going to fall flat. So I try to spend a lot of time building up the characters. And yes, they do evolve over not only over the one book, but over multiple books.
That's great. That's great. I guess when you say they conflict, I guess, can you describe how you develop the personality of Enzo in terms, because Blake might already be established, but tell me about how you base that.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about maybe I'm really nice at work and a little less so at home, a little more reckless. You know, I think Enzo is Blake is more of the kind of grew up and had things handed to him maybe. Enzo is the one that was working off the street, came from Sicily, and was, you know, picking locks and breaking into things when he was a little kid. And so they kind of grew up in two different cultures, and but ended up like at the paramount of like one of the greatest things you can do as a lawyer is clerk for the Supreme Court of the United States. It's
Sure,
like less than 1/10% get that opportunity. And both of these men had the opportunity to do that. But then they were flushed back out into their own cultures again, and then they meet. And then I think his personality, Enzo's personality, was I didn't know who he was going to be at the beginning of the book. Quite frankly, I kind of knew where he was going to start, and then he evolved as I was writing it throughout the book. That sounds a little hokey, but I don't know how else to describe it. It just kind of took on his own characteristics and behaviors. And it's funny because a lot of people that read Mod Justice will tell me that they think he is the best character. And
nice.
So I think mission accomplished with him. But I think for me, I kind of grew up, you know, hand to mouth. We grew up really poor and on the streets. And I was almost closer to Enzo than I was to Blake in terms of how my career and my life kind of unfolded.
Russell, did you have a question?
Well, I did, but he just answered it. Okay, I do. We're about to be finished. I do want to ask you, Chad, what book are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm reading Death of the West, nonfiction, and then I'm reading the last. I kind of read multiple books at one time. I'm reading the last LBJ biography. And so
are you talking about the one that just came out by Robert Caro?
No, I'm sorry. I should have made that clear. I don't have that.
Yes, you got to, because it's a big deal.
It's the last one of the original before he went silent for a couple of decades.
Okay, because there's one coming out like imminently. And I've read all of those books. Actually, I think I've read all of those books twice. They're spectacular. Yeah. And I'm so excited about it. So you're reading, which one are you reading? Are you reading about when he was president?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, talk about an appreciation of just like the civil rights movement.
Yeah. I like the first one because it's my hometown. I mean, he was in Jim Wells County. He was right there where I grew up. And just to think about the way that the Johnsons found themselves in Johnson City, it was just a mistake. I mean, they thought they were farmers, thought they were going for fertile land, and the Comanches were burning the topsoil over the limestone, and it was nothing but limestone. So they became cattle ranchers, and it changed everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first book too is my favorite.
Yeah,
just because it really is the history of Texas.
Yes,
is that first book.
True. Yep.
Okay, that's the end of my questions.
Okay.
Russell's been cut off, Chad. That's what he's saying. He's been cut off. Well, so Chad, what part of Texas are you from?
I'm from Corpus Christi. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I grew up in San Antonio. Russell's from Amarillo, lives in Houston. Valerie lives
I'm
in
Houston.
and I'm over here in Aggie Land in College Station. And for
Fantastic.
for me and Russell, we're fish out of water because we're not Aggie fans. But it's okay. It's all good. I survive here, so it works out. But I have friends that live in Corpus, and I don't get to meet a fellow like South Texan very often, actually. So it's really love. Well, so what's next for you, Chad? Or like, what is next in your writing career? Just what's next for you?
Yeah, so I think my plan is for all my books from here on out will be scavenger hunt series books, and there's been a huge demand for those. So Homecoming Queen was my South Texas book, and it may be the best book I'll write, but it was one and done. And but I'm writing a book now that I think is going to be called Borderfall, and it'll be a scavenger hunt book that takes place in Arizona and Mexico. And it'll be a lot of the border type issues that I dealt with at DHS, kind of as a backdrop to what's going on with the story. And I'm excited about this one because whether you're watching like MSNBC or Fox News, whatever the news source is for your listener, you never get the real scoop on immigration and cartels and all that stuff. It's always tilted one way or the other. And so I'm excited to kind of bring the reader behind the curtain on the way it really works and let them make some decisions about how they would handle certain things if they were there.
Nice. I think that's a good direction to continue in your series that is, of a demand, and you're still writing about things, I think, that you can kind of turn into a blend to fit your series. I love like mob books, mafia books. Those are mine, but mine is, I love them more in the sense of a dark romance alignment is more what I am, but I do love them. So I'm definitely going to check it out, and then I will let you know because I have it. So I'm going to read it, and then I'll let
thank
you know. Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to see where you go and about this next book. We'll have to have you back on to talk about it because that sounds like it's going to be fantastic book. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, and we could connect today, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you could take time out. No, it's all good. I'm glad that you could take time out and that we could reconnect so we could actually like hear about your book. So thank you so much.
Definitely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you guys, we hope that you all have a fantastic Monday and a great rest of your week. And until next time, bye for now, everybody.